Imagine this. You're chasing something. Maybe it's that promotion, maybe a new health trend, finding the perfect partner, or maybe just, enough money to finally feel secure.
Right. We all do it.
And you get it, right? For a moment you feel good, but then inevitably something shifts, life throws a curveball, and that hard-won piece just vanishes.
Poof, gone.
We're constantly striving, constantly reacting, kind of stuck on this roller coaster where happiness seems perpetually just out of reach, always tied to external circumstances that, well, we often can't control.
Exhausting.
What if there was a way off that ride? What if the true compass for a genuinely well-lived life pointed in a radically different direction, one that cuts through all that noise and gives you truly unshakable tranquility?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Okay, let's unpack this then. Today, we're diving deep into what you might call the North Star of Stoic ethics. The bold, maybe even a revolutionary, claim that virtue is the only true good.
The only one. That's the key.
Everything else, just indifferent. Our mission here is to explore why this single challenging idea isn't just some ancient philosophical concept collecting dust, but maybe the key to unlocking a truly tranquil and meaningful life, freeing us from that exact roller coaster of external circumstances you might be, well, all too familiar with. It's about finding your inner anchor in a chaotic world.
And what's fascinating here really is that this isn't just some quaint historical idea, stuck in old books.
Right.
This foundational claim of Stoicism, which was meticulously distilled from centuries of really profound thought, it forces us to question our most deeply held assumptions about what actually makes us happy, what makes us feel secure.
Yeah, the things we take for granted.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally reshapes how we view everything. I mean, everything from our personal ambitions to those unexpected misfortunes that inevitably strike us all. It offers a perspective that's surprisingly, almost you could say alarmingly, relevant to our modern struggles with anxiety, dissatisfaction, and that relentless pressure to, keep up.
Totally. And to guide us through this intricate landscape, we'll draw from a really rich tapestry of sources that span millennia.
Yeah, that's quite a lineup.
We'll be looking at the classical summaries from foundational figures like Cicero and Diogenes Laertius, insightful modern reconstructions from contemporary scholars such as Lawrence C. Becker.
Becker's work is crucial here.
Practical guides for modern Stoics by thinkers like Massimo Pigliucci and Gregory Lopez, and of course, the direct, powerful wisdom from the practitioners themselves, people like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius.
They're giants.
Right. And this isn't about deciphering dry academic texts. It's really about drawing out the powerful, actionable insights that can genuinely transform how you approach your life right here, right now.
Making it real, making it usable.
Exactly. Okay, this next part. It's truly mind-bending. And it's where I often find myself doing a double take, even now.
Huh? I know the feeling.
Forget practically everything modern society tells you makes life good. The bigger house, the perfect body, the overflowing bank account, universal praise on social media. The Stoics basically throw all that out the window.
Just toss it.
With one radical, almost defiant claim: virtue is the only true good. What do you make of that? I mean, it feels like it flies in the face of practically everything we're taught to strive for, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that's precisely why it's so powerful and, frankly, often so misunderstood. It immediately raises the question, why? Why this radical stance?
Yeah, why only virtue?
Why would they strip away all the conventional desires that people dedicate their entire lives to pursuing? Well, Lawrence C. Becker, in his seminal work, A New Stoicism Revised Edition, meticulously details that for the Stoics, the primary kind of good life is one where Stoic virtue is achieved and sustained.
Achieved and sustained, okay.
And crucially, this virtue, in its singular form, is explicitly called the only good. It's not a means to an end, like a stepping stone to happiness. It is the end itself.
So it's not part of the good life, it is the good life.
Precisely. The Stoics aren't saying virtue is a good, among many other goods. No, they're saying it's the good, the sole intrinsic value. This is a profound distinction, setting it apart from other philosophical schools that might list several categories of good things like pleasure or health as also intrinsically valuable.
Right, like Aristotle might?
Exactly. For a Stoic, if something isn't virtue, it holds no intrinsic worth in itself. Period. It's a complete reorientation of value, turning everything on its head.
Okay, so if virtue is this singular ultimate good, what does that actually mean for happiness, or eudaimonia, as the Greeks called it?
Mhm.
This idea that virtue alone is sufficient for happiness sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? I mean, for most people, happiness is a complex mix of things. Good relationships, stable finances, good health.
The usual checklist.
Yeah. How do the Stoics argue that this versatile, virtuoso Stoic agency, as Becker puts it, truly completes the picture? And what does that mean for someone experiencing, say, profound loss or serious illness? It feels tough.
It is tough, and it's a critical point.
Yeah.
Because the Stoics are indeed saying that virtue achieved and sustained through this versatile, virtuoso Stoic agency is sufficient for eudaimonia, for Stoic happiness.
Sufficient, meaning nothing else needed?
Nothing else needed. It's a direct and really robust connection. Now, this isn't about feeling happy in the fleeting emotional sense we often think of, that momentary burst of pleasure.
Like getting a promotion or buying a new car.
Exactly. Instead, it's about a deep, abiding state of flourishing that comes directly and consistently from living virtuously. The concept of sufficiency means you don't need anything extra once you have virtue. It's a complete package, a self-contained source of well-being.
Okay.
Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, actually defined happiness as a good flow of life. Lovely phrase. Seneca echoed this in his Letters from a Stoic, calling it peacefulness and constant tranquility.
A good flow of life. I like that.
Right. And this state, importantly, unlike the Epicurean idea of freedom from disturbance, which was primarily about seeking the absence of pain.
Getting rid of the bad stuff.
Yeah. Stoic happiness is actively constituted by virtue. It's not just the absence of discomfort or pain. It's an active internal state of excellent character, not merely a passive absence of suffering.
So it's something you build, not just something you avoid losing.
Precisely. And this is key because it places happiness entirely within our control, independent of what the external world throws at us, including, yes, profound loss or illness. Your inner state, your virtue, remains your own, a sanctuary no external force can breach.
And get this, for the Stoics, happiness isn't like a partial state you can dip in and out of.
No degrees of happiness.
It's an all-or-nothing affair, complete at any given moment. Now, that's a striking difference from someone like Aristotle, right, who famously insisted on needing a complete lifetime for happiness.
Right. Aristotle said you couldn't call someone happy until they were dead, basically.
Yeah, because misfortune could always strike and undo their perceived happiness. But the Stoics, totally different, said you could be happy right now if you are virtuous, even, apparently, in the face of extreme suffering. How on earth do they square that circle? It feels so counterintuitive.
It certainly does feel counterintuitive, and you're right, it was considered quite a paradox even by their ancient critics, including Aristotle and his followers.
They must have gotten pushback.
Oh, absolutely. The traditional Greek understanding of living well or being happy, eudaimonia, was indeed about fulfilling one's nature.
Yeah.
The Stoics accepted this framework, but then they made their radical move. They argued that moral goodness, virtue, was its sole constituent, the only thing that truly defined a fulfilled human nature.
The only
The only thing. So they would claim that even, and this is a famous example, the sufferings of Priam will not disturb the virtuous man's happiness.
Priam, the king of Troy who lost everything, his kingdom, his sons.
Everything. Yeah. A direct rejection of Aristotle's view that you need at least some good fortune for a truly happy life. Aristotle would say, look, if you were suffering terribly like Priam, even if you were virtuous, you couldn't possibly be called happy.
Seems reasonable.
But the Stoics, with their radical stance, said yes, you absolutely could. Because your virtue itself is your happiness. If your inner moral compass is perfectly aligned, if your judgment is sound, if you're acting with courage, justice, wisdom, temperance, then your core well-being is intact regardless of the external chaos.
Wow.
It's a statement about the invulnerability of the inner self, the mind's capacity to remain steadfast even when the body or external circumstances are in turmoil. They were absolutely prepared to be charged with paradox rather than compromise this core claim. Virtue alone is sufficient for happiness.
Think about what Cicero, one of our key sources, quoted. He said something like, nothing desirable, nothing worth reckoning as a good where rectitude is not found.
Rectitude, moral uprightness.
Right. So this isn't just poetic language. It's a really stark statement of ultimate value. So if your job, your relationship, your possessions, if they aren't tied to rectitude, to moral goodness, they hold no ultimate desirable value for your soul.
None. Zero.
It's a truly stark claim. I mean, we spend so much time pursuing these things, convinced they're the key to our well-being.
Exactly. And Seneca, in Letters from a Stoic, He's quite blunt and crystal clear on this point. He just dismantles our conventional pursuits one by one.
Yeah, he doesn't pull punches.
Not at all. He explicitly states, virtue has to be learnt. Pleasure is a poor and petty thing. Glory is an empty, changeable thing. Poverty is no evil. Death is not an evil. He challenges us, really forces us to look beyond these traditional pursuits because they simply don't have intrinsic worth in themselves.
So they're not actually good.
Not in the ultimate sense. They are not what defines a good life. He's effectively saying, wake up. Stop chasing these ephemeral shadows and focus on what actually counts, what truly makes you better, what's genuinely yours.
Which is your character, your virtue.
Precisely. It's a radical call to reevaluate our entire value system. Consider, for instance, a hypothetical. Someone works tirelessly, maybe even unethically, to amass great wealth.
Okay.
By conventional standards, they might be seen as successful, right? But for Seneca, if that wealth wasn't acquired or used virtuously, it is ultimately a poor and petty thing, completely devoid of true goodness for the soul. This distinction is critical for how we orient our lives, forcing us to ask ourselves constantly, is my pursuit genuinely virtuous, or am I just chasing something ultimately hollow?
Okay, so if virtue is the only good, the absolute North Star, then what about literally everything else? What about things like health, wealth, reputation, even our physical bodies? These are things we spend so much time and energy on, right?
Hugely important in most people's lives, yeah.
The Stoics call these indifferents. Now, this might sound harsh, even cold, like they just don't care about anything outside their heads.
Yes, it can definitely come across that way at first.
But it's crucial to understand their reasoning, which hinges on what Epictetus famously called the distinction between what's in our power and what's not in our power. This concept, honestly, it feels like the bedrock for finding any kind of lasting peace in this turbulent world.
You've absolutely hit on a concept that's often termed the dichotomy of control or the Stoic fork by modern Stoics, people like Massimo Pigliucci and Gregory Lopez.
The Stoic fork, I like that.
Yeah, it's a great image. And it's outlined with striking clarity by Epictetus in the Enchiridion, which was basically his practical handbook for living.
The manual.
Right. He states, in our power, our opinion, movement towards a thing, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever are our acts. So this includes our judgments, our intentions, our values, basically, our entire inner world.
What goes on inside our heads?
Exactly. Conversely, he says, not in our power are the body, property, reputation, offices, and in a word, whatever are not our own acts.
So everything external.
Pretty much. External circumstances, other people's actions and opinions, our physical health beyond our own reasonable efforts to maintain it, even our own death. These are outside our direct, complete control. And this distinction, this fork, is the absolute bedrock of Stoic tranquility because it tells us precisely where to direct our energy and concern.
Just focus on what you can control.
Your inner world, your judgments, your intentions, your reactions, that's your sovereign domain. Everything else, the externals, are simply not. Trying to control what is not yours is, for the Stoics, the ultimate source of frustration and suffering.
The logic is simple, yet really profound and devastatingly practical when you think about it. If something is truly in our power, Epictetus says it's free, not subject to restraint or hindrance.
Your thoughts are yours alone.
We can choose our opinions, our desires, our aversions. These are ours alone. But if it's not in our power, Epictetus warns, it's weak, slavish, subject to restraint and the power of others.
Dependent on fortune, basically.
And here's the kicker, the part that I think truly explains why we suffer so much today. If you mistake these slavish things, these externals, for things you actually control, or worse, for things that are essential to your happiness.
Oh, the big mistake.
Epictetus warns, you will be hindered, you will lament, you will be disturbed, you will blame both gods and men. That's such a powerful warning that resonates just as much now, maybe even more, than it did 2,000 years ago.
Absolutely. We blame the economy, our boss, our partner, our bad luck.
Everything but our own judgments about those things.
Exactly. The Stoics suggest the real problem is our attachment, our clinging to things outside our control. Donald Robertson, in his book, How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, explains that the Stoics viewed this confusion as the root cause of most emotional suffering.
Makes sense.
Think about it. If you demand, absolutely demand, to obtain something or avoid something that is outside your control, it's simply irrational, isn't it?
Yeah, logically, it doesn't hold up.
Your happiness becomes incredibly vulnerable, just totally susceptible to external whims, as John Sellers points out in Lessons in Stoicism. If your well-being depends on your romantic relationship never ending, or your career ambition always succeeding, or your material possessions always remaining perfect,
You're setting yourself up for disappointment.
you've effectively handed over your happiness, your peace of mind, to outside forces. It's a contradiction to believe you must have something, while also accepting, deep down, it's not entirely in your power. This is why the Stoics classify all these external things as indifferent to our goodness or badness, because they're not entirely up to us to secure or avoid.
Okay, indifferent meaning they don't affect our virtue.
Exactly. We can prefer them, sure, but we cannot demand them as necessary for our virtue or our happiness.
That clarity about what's up to us versus what isn't, it's really powerful. But I have to admit, for many people, calling things like health or relationships or, financial security indifferent sounds incredibly cold, almost inhumane.
I hear that a lot.
Does this mean Stoics are supposed to be disengaged, emotionless robots who just don't care about anything outside their own minds? Like, if my friend is sick, am I supposed to just shrug and say, indifferent? That feels really unfeeling, doesn't it?
It does feel unfeeling if you take it that way, and it's a common and totally understandable misinterpretation. It really highlights an important nuance in Stoic thought: the distinction between preferred indifference and dispreferred indifference.
Okay, so there are levels of indifference.
Sort of. The Stoics were very much human. They understood natural inclinations. Zeno himself, the founder, as mentioned in Lives of the Stoics, found what you might call a classic middle ground.
Okay.
He argued one can lean toward virtue and still desire wealth or fame or preeminence, for those were tools to employ in the building of an even more virtuous life.
Tools, not the goal itself.
Exactly. Tools. So while health or wealth aren't good in the primary, virtuous sense meaning they don't contribute to our moral character directly, they're considered according to nature, and thus preferred. We naturally prefer being healthy over being sick.
Makes sense.
Sickness, poverty, or social ostracism, on the other hand, are contrary to nature and therefore dispreferred. But, and this is crucial, they are still indifferent to our moral good. They are not evil in the sense that they cannot corrupt our virtue or destroy our capacity for happiness.
So bad things happen. They're undesirable, but they don't make us bad people.
Precisely. The wise person will act prudently and within their power to secure preferred indifference when it's appropriate and reasonable. They'll try to be healthy, they'll manage their finances responsibly, but their virtue and happiness aren't dependent on having them. If a preferred indifferent is lost, health fails, money disappears, they don't lament or despair because their core good, their virtue, remains untouched. It's about not mistaking the tools for the true good, the ultimate end.
Okay, that clarifies things a lot. It's not about actively seeking suffering or denying natural human inclinations then. Seneca, for example, he clarifies this in On the Happy Life, right?
Yeah.
He says something like, "The wise man will not despise himself no matter how short he may be, but nevertheless he will wish to be tall."
Right. Or, if his health is bad, he will endure it, but he will wish for it to be good.
Exactly. He acknowledges these natural preferences without elevating them to moral goods, which makes a lot more sense. It's a more realistic acceptance of human nature without sacrificing that core ethical principle.
Perfectly put. And on wealth, Seneca is very clear. He does not love riches, but would prefer them. He does not admit them to his heart, but to his house. He does not reject the riches he has, but keeps them.
Why?
That's wealth. To supply fuller material for the exercise of his virtue.
So wealth can provide opportunities for virtue, like generosity or supporting good causes.
Exactly. It's about how you use the external, not the external itself. Wealth, in itself, is neutral. It can be used virtuously or viciously. Marcus Aurelius drives this home again and again in his Meditations, noting that death and life, glory and reproach, pain and pleasure, riches and poverty, all these happen promiscuously to the good and bad. They land on everyone.
Good people get sick, bad people get rich.
Right. But as they are neither honorable nor shameful, Marcus concludes, they are therefore neither good nor evil. The Stoics recognize that some external circumstances are naturally desirable or undesirable, but their presence or absence simply does not affect the moral quality of your character or your capacity for virtue. So for you, our listener, the key takeaway here is profoundly liberating, I think. Your well-being, your fundamental sense of worth isn't tied to having a perfect body or a huge bank account or universal acclaim online or anywhere else.
It's internal.
It's internal. These external things are tools or circumstances. They are not the essence of your good life. Your North Star remains virtue, regardless of these externals. You can prefer health, and you absolutely should act prudently to maintain it. But if sickness strikes, Your virtue allows you to endure it with dignity and reason, to exercise patience and courage.
Turn it into practice.
Exactly. You can prefer wealth, and you can strive for it ethically. But if poverty comes, your virtue remains intact, allowing you to practice resilience and resourcefulness. This is where your true power and your true peace lie, independent of the fickle hand of fortune. It's a complete shift in where you locate your sense of security and value.
This Stoic vision, it's not just about individual control and personal ethics, is it? It seems deeply connected to their whole understanding of the universe itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's cosmological.
They saw the cosmos through a very specific lens, didn't they? Using these two fundamental concepts. Logos, which is what, like the universal reason or rational order that governs everything.
Exactly. The divine fire, the rational principle pervading all things.
And physis, which refers to nature itself, but nature infused and directed by that logos. These were like the pillars of their thought. So it's not just think good thoughts, it's more like think good thoughts because the universe itself is inherently good and rational.
Precisely. That connection is vital. As A.L. Long explains in his book, Epictetus, A Stoic and Socratic Guide to Life, it is because nature as a whole is informed by reason that Stoicism seeks to unify all aspects of philosophy. Physics, ethics, logic. They all connect back to this rational universe.
So the universe isn't chaotic or random?
Not at all, in the Stoic view.
Yeah.
It is deeply rational, ordered, and providentially governed. This cosmic order is often equated with God, or providence, or right reason itself. Everything that happens, in this view, is part of a deterministic process.
Deterministic, meaning preordained.
Yes, unfolding for purposes which are necessarily good. Now, this doesn't mean good in the sense of always pleasant or easy for us individually.
Right. Bad things still happen.
But good in the sense of contributing to the optimal functioning and rationality of the cosmos as a whole. The Stoics believed there's a divine, rational plan unfolding, and every event, even those that seem negative to us from our limited perspective, contributes to the overall perfection and good of the cosmos. Our understanding of this cosmic reason and our joyful alignment with it is what helps us shape and find meaning in our individual lives within that larger whole.
Okay, so this means that living in agreement and consistent with nature, that's the Stoic ideal. But what does that really mean in practice? It's not just a good function, something we can do. You mentioned it's something in his power to achieve. So it's both an aspiration and an attainable state directly linked to our agency. Are we just supposed to passively accept everything that happens, no matter how terrible it seems from our viewpoint?
It's actually more profound than just passive acceptance. Yes, the Hellenistic philosophers' collection notes that this agreement with nature is the ultimate good, the telos, and it's entirely within the wise person's capacity. Our role, our task, is to align our inner reason, our personal logos, with this universal reason.
Our little reason with the big reason.
Exactly. And to joyfully consent to what transpires in the world, as Pierre Hadot vividly describes in philosophy as a way of life. He says we're actually supposed to love to see events happen.
Love them. Even the bad stuff.
Yes, because universal nature loves to produce them. This isn't passive resignation like throwing your hands up in despair. It's an active, rational acceptance that everything is part of a larger, good, and deterministic process.
Okay, active acceptance.
When you truly grasp, or at least strive to grasp, that the universe is governed by a benevolent, rational intelligence, and that everything that happens is part of that perfect design, then you see misfortune not as a random curse, but as a necessary, maybe even useful, component of the whole. It transforms your perception from resistance and frustration to harmonious participation. Even when things are difficult, we give our inner consent because we understand they are part of the rational whole, perhaps even a canvas upon which our virtue can be painted, tested, and strengthened.
Okay, but if the universe is this deterministic, rational process and everything that happens is part of a greater good, then where do humans fit into this picture? Are we just puppets of fate with no real freedom or moral choice? What makes our actions meaningful if everything is already kind of laid out for us? That's always been a challenge to deterministic philosophies, hasn't it?
It's an excellent and crucial question because it gets right to the heart of Stoic moral agency. And the answer is not at all. We're not mere puppets. Long highlights that man alone is endowed by nature with the capacity to understand cosmic events and to promote the rationality of nature by his own efforts. This gives us a unique and really powerful role in the cosmic drama. We are active participants, co-workers with nature, if you like.
Okay, so we can understand and promote it.
Yes, but here's the crucial twist. We are also the only natural being who has the capacity to act in the manner which fails to accord with the will of nature.
Ah, so we can screw it up.
We could screw it up. Other animals simply follow their instincts. They don't consciously choose to defy nature's rational order. This duality, the capacity to understand and align, but also the capacity to misjudge and resist, is what makes us moral agents, capable of good or bad.
Our judgments again?
Exactly. While external events are determined by the causal chain of fate, our assent to those events, our judgments about them, and our intentions in response are considered entirely within our power. This is where our freedom lies, allowing for true moral choice and responsibility. Nature provides us with impulses to virtue, or seeds of knowledge. We have an innate sense, they believed, sufficient to direct our reason towards what's right.
We basically know right from wrong.
Fundamentally, yes. But achieving a truly good character, becoming a sage, demands arduous efforts. It's a constant practice, a lifelong refinement of judgment. External influences, our upbringing, social conditioning, our own flawed reasoning, persuasive but false opinions, often prevent perfect alignment with nature. But the capacity for alignment is always inherent within us. So for you, our listener, this means you have a unique and profound responsibility. While the world unfolds deterministically around you, the weather, the economy, other people's actions, health events, your response to it, your judgments and intentions, that's where your power and freedom truly lie. It's about aligning your personal logos, your individual reason and will, with the cosmic logos, the universal reason that governs everything. This alignment is your freedom, not in trying to change external events, which you largely cannot, but in shaping your inner world, your character, and ensuring your reactions are always virtuous, always rational, always in harmony with nature as a whole.
Okay, so if virtue is this unshakable North Star, this fixed point guiding us, how does that actually help us navigate the really turbulent waters of daily life? The unexpected pain, the profound loss, the relentless stress that can throw us completely off balance and make us feel lost.
Yeah, the storms of life.
It's one thing to understand the theory, right? But it feels like another thing entirely to live it when you're facing a major life crisis, or maybe just a really, really bad day.
Absolutely. That's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. And the core Stoic answer is through consistently, diligently cultivating indifference to externals again, not uncaring indifference, but rational indifference based on the dichotomy of control, and relentlessly focusing on what is truly in our power, our judgments and our intentions.
Back to the fork.
Always back to the fork. Epictetus in the Enchiridion gives remarkably practical advice here. He encourages us to live with a light heart and bearing easily the reins, quietly expecting everything which can happen, and enduring that which has already happened.
Bearing easily the reins, I like that image, not fighting it.
Exactly. This mindset doesn't ignore adversity, it transforms your relationship to it. You don't get tossed around helplessly by things outside your control if you accept them for what they are, indifference to your true good, your virtue. Now, this takes practice. Lots of practice.
It's not automatic.
Definitely not. It's a constant vigilance over your internal state, recognizing again and again that your deepest peace isn't dependent on things going your way, but on how you choose to process and respond to whatever happens. It's about building mental resilience, about internalizing that core truth until it becomes second nature.
Marcus Aurelius, who, literally ruled the Roman Empire amidst plague and war.
Talk about stress.
Right. He put it this way in the Meditations. The things themselves reach not to the soul, but stand without, still and motionless. All your perturbation comes from inward opinions about them.
That's such a powerful image, the external events just standing there, inert, powerless.
And this sounds remarkably like cognitive distancing, doesn't it? That modern psychological technique used in therapies like CBT today. It's about creating space between an event and your interpretation of it. The ancient Roman emperor was basically doing cognitive behavioral therapy on himself.
It absolutely does, and the parallels are striking and well documented. Donald Robertson, again, in How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, explicitly notes that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, often uses Epictetus's maxim as a foundational principle. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things.
The core idea.
It's the core idea. This metacognitive process, as Aaron Beck, the founder of CBT, essentially defined it, involves sensing the separation between our thoughts and external reality. Learning to observe our thoughts as thoughts, not as direct reflections of reality. By viewing events with studied indifference, by consciously choosing not to assign an absolute negative value, like, this is terrible, I can't stand it, to an external event, we can overcome the fear of pain, knowing that often the fear of pain does more harm than pain itself.
The anticipation is worse than the event sometimes.
Often, yes. The actual physical sensation of pain, while unpleasant, is often less damaging to our soul, to our tranquility, than the anxiety, the dread, the catastrophic interpretations we attach to it through our unchecked judgments. This insight is one of the most directly actionable gifts from Stoicism, allowing us to proactively manage our emotional responses, rather than just being swept away by them. And to illustrate this, just think of Marcus Aurelius himself. Even when he was facing severe illness or betrayal or civil war, he constantly reminded himself of other examples, like Epicurus.
Epicurus, the rival philosopher.
Yes, interestingly, he admired how Epicurus apparently continued to discuss philosophy while suffering from agonizing kidney stones and dysentery near the end of his life. He was unperturbed and preserving its specific good, as Marcus put it.
Meaning his mind, his reason.
Exactly. Even in immense physical pain, Epicurus's mind, according to this account, remained calm and focused on intellectual activity, demonstrating that the external suffering did not have to dictate his inner state. He chose to apply his attention, his judgment, to his philosophical work rather than dwelling solely on the pain. This shows that focusing on what's in your power, your judgment, your intellectual activity, your virtue, allows the mind to remain serene, or at least functional and rational, even when the body is afflicted or the world around you seems to be collapsing.
Okay, so that covers enduring hardship. But beyond merely enduring, how does this whole doctrine guide our daily desires, our ambitions, our pursuit of joy? It can't be all about just stoically gritting our teeth through suffering, right? We're still human. We still want things. We want to feel good.
You're absolutely right. Stoicism isn't about eradicating desire entirely, but about managing it rationally, aligning it with nature and virtue. Seneca gives us a very clear warning about getting caught up in external desires in his Letters from a Stoic. He says, "Natural desires are finite. Those born of false opinion have no place to stop."
No place to stop. That rings true.
Doesn't it? He continues. "There is no terminus to what is false. When you are traveling on a road, there must be an end, but wanderings have no limit." He's describing that feeling many of us know well, the constant craving for more wealth, more status, more pleasure that keeps us perpetually dissatisfied.
The hedonic treadmill.
Precisely. You chase one thing, you get it, maybe feel a brief flicker of satisfaction, then immediately look for the next thing, never truly finding lasting peace. Natural desires, like hunger and thirst, have a natural limit, a natural end. What satisfied you eat, you're no longer hungry. But desires born of false opinions, like the belief that more money or more fame will bring ultimate happiness, are limitless by their very nature, and hence they cause endless agitation. They are a treadmill of dissatisfaction.
But Stoicism isn't about being joyless or denying pleasure entirely. That's that emotionless robot stereotype rearing its head again.
Exactly. It doesn't deny joy. It reframes it, making it something far more profound and sustainable than mere fleeting sensation or passive pleasure.
So what is Stoic joy then?
Well, Robertson clarifies two really key points about Stoic joy in How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. First, he stresses it's not the ultimate goal itself. Wisdom and virtue are the goal. Joy is rather a byproduct of living wisely and virtuously.
So you don't aim for joy directly.
Right? Chasing joy directly might actually lead us astray, probably towards those passive pleasures Seneca warned about, rather than towards active well-being. Second, and crucially, Stoic joy is fundamentally active. It stems from perceiving the virtuous quality of our own deeds.
From doing good, not just feeling good.
Precisely. Bodily pleasures, by contrast, are largely passive experiences that happen to us, like the taste of delicious food or the feeling of warmth from the sun. The enduring, profound joy, the Stoic chara, comes from your virtuous actions, your moral choices, your inner character, and the deep peace of a well-ordered mind, not primarily from external events aligning with your preferences. It's the deep satisfaction of acting with integrity and reason, regardless of the outcome. So for you, our listener, this means focusing your energy and attention on your intentions and actions, rather than fixating solely on the outcomes, which are often outside your control anyway. Ask yourself, did I act with integrity, wisdom, justice, and courage today? Did I respond to a difficult situation with reason and acceptance, rather than giving in to anger or despair? That's where true lasting joy resides, independent of whether the preferred indifferent, the promotion, the clean bill of health, the lottery win manifested as you wished. The joy is in the process of being virtuous and exercising your moral agency excellently, not just in the result of external circumstances falling your way. It's about finding fulfillment in the internal quality of your choices and actions.
It's really incredible when you step back and realize that these insights we're discussing about active joy, about managing desires rationally, about focusing relentlessly on what's truly in your power, They aren't new fads. They're part of this living, breathing tradition echoing all the way back to figures like Socrates himself.
The fountainhead.
Right. His unwavering commitment to virtue, even facing death, fundamentally inspired the Stoics long before their school was even officially established. So this isn't just ancient wisdom dug up from the past. It feels more like foundational wisdom for being human.
Absolutely foundational. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, profoundly endorsed the Socratic proposition that actions are always motivated by what the agent thinks will be good for him or her.
Yeah.
Our actions aim at what we perceive as good.
Even if we're mistaken about what's truly good.
Exactly. Socrates' relentless insistence on seeking goodness and justice above all else, even above fearing death, deeply resonated with Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius. Marcus frequently quotes Plato's Socratic dialogues in his personal meditations. That commitment to prioritizing virtue, even in the face of death or extreme adversity, was a powerful Socratic legacy that the Stoics adopted wholeheartedly, making it absolutely central to their philosophy. Socrates was, for them, the archetypal figure of someone who prioritized his inner virtue above all possible external circumstances, including his own life.
So we have these giants we keep mentioning: Zeno, who founded the school; Chrysippus, who systematized it; Seneca, the advisor; Epictetus, the teacher; Marcus Aurelius, the emperor. Their insights really form our understanding, and we even see these practical applications filtering down, like with Marcus's tutor, Junius Rusticus.
Rusticus, yeah.
Apparently, he guided the young Marcus to focus specifically on Stoic ethics and its practical application in daily life, rather than getting lost in, say, purely logical puzzles or complex cosmological speculation. It sounds like the philosophy itself evolved over time, maybe moving from more abstract theory towards something more immediately applicable to living well.
It certainly did evolve. While Zeno, the founder, initially found cynicism appealing, Diogenes living in a barrel, rejecting all conventions.
The extreme version.
Yeah, the extreme version. Zeno admired their indifference to externals, but he ultimately saw its limitations. He famously argued, well, if wealth is truly indifferent, why actively reject it and choose to live in squalor? Why not just use it virtuously if you happen to have it?
Makes sense. Don't seek it, but don't run from it either.
Exactly. Cynicism, with its active disdain for possessions and its deliberately austere lifestyle, went beyond mere rational indifference into an almost aggressive dispreference. Later Roman Stoics, particularly figures like Seneca and Epictetus, definitely became, let's say, warmer and more responsive to the emotional side of human nature. They placed a much greater emphasis on progress procope over the seemingly impossible ideal of attaining perfect sagehood.
Making it more achievable for regular people.
Exactly. It's a shift seen as crucial for the broader appeal and practical application of Stoicism in everyday life. They recognize that most people aren't going to become perfect sages, but everyone can strive for continuous improvement, for becoming better day by day, rather than only aiming for that perhaps unattainable ideal of the perfect sage. This made the philosophy much more accessible and feel like a living, evolving practice rather than just an intimidating, abstract ideal.
We touched on this earlier, but let's circle back to it because it's so striking. The idea that a virtuous person could genuinely be happy even while being tortured on the rack, as Cicero describes it, or while enduring the kind of catastrophic suffering that the mythical King Priam faced, who lost absolutely everything.
His city, his family, everything.
This idea that virtue alone could guarantee happiness regardless of the most extreme external torment often felt like a profound paradox even to ancient critics, including Aristotle and his followers. I mean, it really goes against common sense for many people, even today. How did the Stoics actually defend such a radical, almost unbelievable claim?
Yeah, it was undeniably a major point of contention, probably the most controversial aspect of their ethics. Critics often argued, sometimes quite cleverly, that what was true in Stoic ethics was not new, and that what was new was not true.
Ouch. Meaning the common sense parts weren't original, and the original parts weren't true?
Precisely. They found it incredibly hard, bordering on impossible, to reconcile extreme physical suffering or loss with the idea of true happiness or flourishing. The Stoics, however, steadfastly maintained their teleological, goal-oriented, and eudaimonistic happiness-focused framework. They consistently defined happiness as the sum of all goods, a potency sufficient for living well, fulfillment in accordance with virtue.
They stuck to their guns.
They absolutely stuck to their guns. They were fully prepared to be charged with paradox rather than compromise this core claim that virtue alone is sufficient for happiness. For them, true happiness was entirely internal, and therefore could not be taken away by external circumstances, no matter how dire. precisely because it wasn't dependent on those externals in the first place. Their logic was ironclad from their perspective. If happiness is the ultimate good and virtue is the only true good, then happiness must simply be virtue. To argue otherwise would be to say either that virtue isn't actually the ultimate good or that happiness isn't truly the ultimate good, either of which would collapse their entire philosophical system. They chose logical consistency over popular appeal or intuitive plausibility.
Okay, so given all this focus on rationality, on virtue, on indifference, does this mean Stoics are supposed to be emotionless robots? We keep coming back to this. What about those gut feelings or involuntary reactions we all experience? Like a sudden pang of sadness when you hear bad news or an unexpected surge of anger when someone cuts you off in traffic. Are these considered unstoic, a sign of failure?
That's another fantastic and very frequently asked question. And it's where the Stoics offer a remarkably nuanced psychological insight that often gets overlooked. This is where the concept of pre-emotions, or propatheiai, becomes really illuminating, as discussed by scholars like Margaret Graver in her book Stoicism and Emotion.
Pre-emotions, okay.
The Stoics made a crucial distinction between these initial involuntary feelings, like a sudden gasp when startled, the blush of embarrassment, a tear that wells up before you even consciously process sadness, or even that initial gut clench of anger and full-blown destructive emotions, the patheiai, which require assent.
Assent, meaning agreement.
Yes, assent to a judgment. Specifically, the judgment that the object or event really has the significant value or disvalue attributed to it by the initial impression. These initial feelings, these pre-emotions, are considered inconsequential from a moral standpoint because they don't involve a conscious judgment of value. They're more like physiological reflexes, natural automatic responses that precede conscious judgment, and as such, they're not seen as being under your direct immediate control and therefore don't necessarily compromise your virtue.
So feeling startled isn't unstoic.
Not at all. For the Stoics, you haven't truly had a destructive emotion, a pathos, until you consciously or unconsciously accept that the way the situation initially presents itself to you is true, that the perceived slight really is a terrible insult that demands an angry response, or that the loss really is an unbearable catastrophe. This acceptance, this assent, is tied to action and its potential excesses, highlighting the ethical seriousness of our judgments. The practice, then, is not to try and eradicate the initial feeling, which is often impossible and involuntary.
Like trying not to jump when someone shouts, "Boo!"
Exactly. The practice is to withhold assent from the accompanying judgment that would turn that initial flicker into a harmful, consuming passion. Think of it like this. Feeling that initial spark of irritation or anger when someone cuts you off in traffic is a pre-emotion. It's a natural, automatic, physiological response.
It happens to everyone.
Right. But assenting to that anger, judging that person as an irredeemable idiot whose actions have ruined your day, and then choosing to act aggressively based on that judgment, like honking, incessantly yelling, or dangerously tailgating them, that's the full-blown destructive emotion, the pathos, that the Stoics warned against. So, crucially for you, our listener, if you feel a pang sadness or a flush of anger or a knot of anxiety starting in your stomach, it absolutely doesn't mean you're failing as a Stoic or that you're not making progress. The Stoic practice lies in that crucial moment after the initial feeling arises. It's in withholding assent, in pausing, in not judging that external event as inherently bad or that the emotional reaction is justified and merits losing control. Instead, you observe the pre-emotion, maybe acknowledge it, there's anger arising, recognize it as a natural, involuntary reaction, and then choose your response deliberately, aligning it with virtue and reason. It's about cultivating a reflective awareness of your thoughts and feelings before they fully take hold and dictate your actions. It's about emotional management and regulation. Definitely not emotional suppression or becoming a robot.
Okay, wow. We've really taken a deep dive today into Stoicism's radical North Star, this profound, challenging idea that virtue is the only true good.
The core of the core.
We've explored how things like health, wealth, status, and pleasure are ultimately indifferent, preferred or dispreferred maybe, but indifferent to our actual moral well-being. And how this understanding, paired with that practical tool, the dichotomy of control, offers a clear path towards genuine tranquility.
A path based on focusing relentlessly on what is truly within our power, which is always our judgments, our intentions, our character.
Exactly.
What we've really seen today is that the Stoics challenge us, fundamentally, to redirect our focus entirely. Your happiness, your tranquility, your ability to live a truly meaningful life, it's not found in controlling the external world, which is largely uncontrollable anyway.
No matter how hard we try.
Right. It's found in cultivating an unwavering inner character, your virtue. It's about striving to become, as Marcus Aurelius beautifully advises himself, undefiled by pleasure, invincible by pain, inaccessible to reproach, and about embracing, maybe even loving, with all your heart whatever befalls you as part of a rational, benevolent universe, precisely because your true good, your virtue, remains untouched and unassailable within you. It's really an invitation to a profound kind of inner freedom.
So for you, our listener, as you go about your week, here's something truly provocative to consider, maybe mull over. If virtue truly is the only good, the only thing with intrinsic value, what indifferent pursuit might you be holding on to right now?
Hmm?
What external thing are you chasing or maybe clinging to desperately that's genuinely preventing you from setting your true North Star, from aligning with virtue and finding that lasting, unshakable peace the Stoics promised?
A powerful question to sit with.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and join us next time on The Deep Dive.